The first time she said it, I found something. Her voice wasn't casual. It had a catch in it, soft but trembling. Like she'd just realized she'd gone too far and didn't know how to pull back. I was wiping down the counter, pretending not to look at her. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that presses on your ribs. Afternoon light leaked through the curtains, warm and dust-speckled, touching the side of her face. She stood by the sink, still in her work clothes, but she didn't move the way housekeepers usually do. She had grace even when she was tired, that careful, deliberate grace people have when they've lived long enough to know what their body gives away. I looked up and caught her eyes before I meant to. She didn't look away. "You missed a spot," she said finally, nodding at the counter. Her tone was teasing, almost, but there was something underneath, something that made my stomach tighten. I wiped the same spot again, slower this time. "Guess I'm still learning," I said. Her lips lifted, not quite a smile. "You learn fast." Silence again. The hum of the refrigerator. The soft creak of her hand tightening around a mug she wasn't drinking from. I didn't know what to do with my hands. When she moved past me, I caught the scent of her perfume. Faint, floral, something old-fashioned and expensive. It lingered long after she'd crossed the room. She bent to pick up something from the floor, a small silver locket. It must have fallen from the counter earlier, but when she stood, she held it like it was alive. Her thumb brushed across the front, and for a moment, she didn't look at me at all. Then she said it. "I found something." Her voice was quiet, steady, but her eyes flicked toward me, just once, before settling back on the locket. I couldn't tell if she meant the necklace or something else entirely. "What is it?" I asked. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. She hesitated. "Something that shouldn't have been lost." I watched her thumb circle the locket again. My chest felt too tight and I didn't understand why. Maybe it was the way she said lost. Maybe it was the way she stood, half-turned, like she was about to step closer but thought better of it. She finally set the locket on the counter and said, almost to herself, "Strange, isn't it? How some things end up in the wrong hands." I should have answered. I didn't. Instead, I just watched her fingers, long, elegant, steady, as they smoothed an invisible wrinkle in her sleeve. Her nails were short, clean, unpainted. Real. She looked at me again then, really looked, and there it was, that quiet understanding that shouldn't exist between two people who barely know each other. "You live here alone, don't you?" she asked. I nodded. "For now." Her eyes softened. "That must be lonely." I didn't know if it was a question or a confession. Before I could speak, before I could say not anymore, there was a sharp knock at the front door. The sound cut through the air like a crack of lightning. Sudden, unwelcome. She froze. Her hand stayed near the locket, her shoulders pulled tight. I turned toward the noise, but she didn't move. When I looked back, her expression had changed. Guarded, distant again, as if the moment between us had been something imagined. Still, when she finally exhaled, it wasn't the door she looked at. It was me. And in that look, I understood whatever she'd found, it wasn't just the locket. It was the one thing she hadn't meant to, me. Then the knock came again. The knock turned out to be nothing. A delivery left at the wrong address. But the interruption did what it always does. It snapped the air in half. When I came back inside, she was still by the counter, one hand flat against the wood like she needed the ground to steady her. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, though she didn't look up right away. You'd think after 46 years I'd stop jumping at small things. That was the first time she'd said her age out loud. Not shyly, just like it was a fact that needed no apology. "I don't think you scare easily," I said. Her eyes lifted. "You don't know me well enough to say that." "Maybe not," I said. "But I watch people. It's kind of my thing." That made her smile, small and uneven. "And what have you seen so far?" I hesitated. She held my gaze, waiting. "That you hold a lot in," I said. "Like you're always listening for something that never comes." Her expression didn't change right away. Then softer, "That's not far off." She walked past me again, slower this time, close enough that the fabric of her sleeve brushed my arm. My body reacted before my mind caught up. A flicker of heat, an instinct to move closer. I didn't. Instead, I leaned against the counter, pretending to dry my hands. You ever find what you're listening for? Once. Her voice thinned, but I didn't hold on to it. That silence after, it wasn't empty. It was full of something neither of us wanted to name. She busied herself straightening the fruit bowl, adjusting things that didn't need adjusting. A ring of light circled her wrist from the window, glinting off the silver locket she still hadn't put away. I didn't ask. I wanted to. Then, without looking at me, she said quietly, "You remind me of him." "Who?" She turned halfway, her eyes softer now. "My son. He would have been your age." My throat closed. I didn't know what to say.
"I'm sorry," he murmured.
"Don't be. Life moves." She tried to smile, but it faltered halfway. "It just leaves pieces behind." Something cracked open inside me. Not pity. Something else. Something I shouldn't have felt. When she reached past me to grab a towel, her hand brushed my shoulder. Barely there, light as breath, but it stayed a second too long. Her fingers twitched, as if she realized it too late. We both froze. Her eyes darted up, caught mine, and for the first time, she didn't pull back right away. The space between us felt too small for what neither of us would say. I could hear her breathing, shallow, careful. I could smell her perfume again, that faint trace of something floral and lonely. Then she stepped back. "You should get some rest," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. I wanted to say something. Stay. Talk. Anything. But the words died somewhere in my chest. At the door, she paused, one hand on the frame. "Some things," she said, "aren't meant to be found twice." She didn't look at me when she said it, but I swear her shoulders trembled before she left the room. And I knew, without needing to see her face, she wasn't talking about the locket anymore. She was talking about me. The next morning started with rain, soft, steady, the kind that turns everything gray and slow. She came in late, shaking water from her coat, her hair damp and curling near her neck. I tried not to stare, but I did anyway. "You should have called," I said. "I could have picked you up." "I like walking in the rain," she said, smiling faintly. "It hides things." "Hides what?" "Eyes. Tears. Doesn't matter." Her tone made it impossible to tell which one she meant. We worked side by side that morning, me fixing the kitchen light, her sorting laundry on the table. The distance between us was practical, but it didn't feel that way. Every time I reached for something, she was there, just close enough that my skin noticed before my eyes did. At one point, she leaned over to hand me a screwdriver. Our fingers brushed. Neither of us moved away. "Careful," she murmured, eyes locked on mine. "Electricity's tricky." "So is this," I said before I could stop myself. Her breath caught, barely audible. A small sound that felt louder than the rain outside. She blinked, as if trying to reset the moment. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because they mean things." We both froze when her phone buzzed on the counter. Sharp, insistent. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Paul. Her expression changed, subtle but real. A small frown, a slow inhale. She silenced the call and tucked the phone face down. "Old friend?" I asked quietly. "Old," she said after a pause. "Not sure about the friend part." She went back to folding clothes, slower now, each movement deliberate. I could feel the tension building again, like static in the air. When I reached to grab a towel beside her, she turned at the same time. The side of her hand brushed my chest. My pulse jumped. We both froze again. It was becoming a pattern. Her voice came out softer than a whisper. "You should stop looking at me like that." "I'm not." "You are." She said it without anger, just quiet truth. Her eyes flicked down, then up again. The rain outside got heavier. The sound filled the silence between us. For a moment, neither of us moved. My hand was still on the towel. Hers rested over mine now, not meaning to, or maybe meaning to, just not admitting it. Then, faintly, a knock at the front door. We both turned, startled, but no one came in. Just another delivery, another near miss. She exhaled shakily. You should get that. I don't want to. Don't make this harder. Her hand started to pull away. I caught it, not tightly, just enough that she stopped. Her eyes widened slightly. We stood like that, suspended, breathless, caught between sense and whatever this was becoming. Her thumb twitched once against my palm, then stilled. You're too young for this, she said, barely above a whisper. Maybe you're too alive to stop it, I said back. A tremor ran through her. Then, suddenly, she stepped closer. Not enough to cross the line, but enough to erase any illusion of space. Her breath brushed my jaw when she spoke. Don't say things you'll regret. I already don't. The doorbell rang again, louder, insistent this time. We didn't move. Her lips parted, just slightly. So close I could taste the warmth of her breath, feel the shiver that went through her when she realized how close we were. And still, neither of us stepped back. Not until the bell stopped. Then she whispered, almost like it hurt to say, "Go see who it is." But her hand didn't let go. The rain hadn't stopped by evening. It hammered the windows in uneven rhythm, like it wanted in. She stayed longer than usual, said the roads were too slick to drive. I didn't argue. We ended up in the living room, a low lamp between us, the soft buzz of the old heater filling the silence. She sat on the edge of the couch, shoes off, fingers tracing the rim of her teacup without drinking. I'd stopped pretending not to look at her. She noticed, of course. You keep staring, she said quietly. I don't mean to. Yes, you do. She set the cup down, stood, and crossed the room. Slow, deliberate. The light caught her face, the faint lines near her eyes, the curve of her mouth that seemed equal parts strength and exhaustion. Why are you doing this? She asked. What? Whatever this is. I didn't have an answer, or maybe I had too many. When she turned away, I caught the faint tremor in her shoulders. You think this is harmless, she said, voice low. But it isn't. You don't understand what people like me lose when we forget the rules. Then maybe the rules are wrong, I said. She exhaled sharply, half laugh, half warning. You sound so young when you say that. I am. I stood too, closing the space between us. But that doesn't make it a lie. She looked up then, eyes bright in the dim light. Not angry, not afraid, just seen. You shouldn't, she whispered. Maybe I already did. Her breath caught. I could see it, the battle happening just behind her eyes. When she spoke again, her voice was unsteady. You don't know what I've been through. My husband, he left 3 years ago. Said I'd grown tired. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. He wasn't wrong. I just didn't expect to stay tired this long. I stepped closer, slow enough to give her time to stop me. You're not tired now. That silence, heavy, alive. Her hands, folded in front of her, twitched once. Then one of them reached up, almost without permission, brushing a strand of hair from her face. My fingers followed before I could think. The texture of her hair, soft, faintly damp from the rain. The warmth of her skin beneath it. She didn't move. Her eyes closed for half a second, as if to feel it fully before deciding to regret it. When she opened them, I was right there, close enough to feel her breath hit my collarbone. This isn't fair, she said, though her body didn't back away. Then stop me. Her lips parted, a shaky inhale between us. You think I don't want to? She whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My hand found her waist, tentative at first, then certain when she didn't pull away. She leaned into it just slightly, like a confession without words. Her heartbeat was quick. So was mine. Then, faintly, headlights cut across the wall. She flinched, pulled back just an inch. Through the rain-streaked window, a car stopped at the end of the driveway. She turned to me, eyes wide. He wasn't supposed to be here. Who? Her breath trembled. Paul. Outside, a car door slammed. Inside, her hand was still pressed against my chest. Neither of us moved. The space between our faces, one breath, 1 second. Too close to undo. And then a sharp knock at the door. Paul stood dripping in the doorway, the rain behind him turning his shape into shadow. He was taller than I expected, older too, late 40s, wearing that half-smile people put on when they think they still belong somewhere. "I didn't mean to drop by unannounced," he said, brushing water from his coat. His eyes flicked from me to her and back again. "Guess I interrupted something." She was motionless, one hand still on the back of the couch, knuckles white. "Paul," she managed. "What are you doing here?" "Returning the spare key. Thought you'd want it back." He set it on the table, metal clinking like a bell. "Didn't realize you had help." The word sat there too long. I could feel the heat climb my neck. She stepped between us too quickly. "He's just been helping with repairs. The light, the roof." Paul's gaze lingered on her damp hair, on the teacup still warm on the table. He smiled again, polite, sharp. "You always did need someone around to keep things working." That landed. I saw the small flinch in her shoulders. He started toward the door, then stopped. "You still wear it." Her hand went instinctively to the silver locket at her throat. "It was never about you," she said quietly. Paul's grin faltered just slightly. "Maybe not, but it looks like it's about him now." The door shut behind him before either of us could answer. The sound echoed. Silence again, not the warm kind from before, but brittle, fragile. She turned away first. "You should go," she said, voice thin. "I'm not leaving you like this." Her breath hitched. "This is exactly how I didn't want you to see me. Old stories I can't bury, people I can't explain." I stepped closer. "You don't have to explain." "Yes, I do." She spun around, eyes bright. "That locket is not a keepsake. It's a lie. It isn't my son's, it's Paul's. He gave it to me the day he left. I told you it was about loss because that sounded cleaner." The air between us tightened. She pressed a hand to her chest. "I thought I'd stopped wanting to be wanted. Then you looked at me like I was still something." Her voice cracked. "You made me remember." I reached out, slow, unsure. My fingertips brushed the edge of the locket. It was warm from her skin. "Maybe remembering isn't the worst thing." Her laugh came out soft and broken. "You think this is just remembering? It's wanting what I shouldn't touch again." We stood inches apart, too close, too aware. Her breath shook. My hand stayed where it was, against the small rise of her heartbeat. "Tell me to stop," I whispered. She didn't. Instead, she looked up, eyes raw, voice low. "If you stay, I won't." The rain outside grew louder, as if to cover whatever came next. She turned toward the window, one hand still gripping mine. "Then decide," she said, trembling. "Stay, or make me forget you ever found me." The storm hadn't moved on. It pressed against the windows like it wanted inside, the wind catching the loose gutter, making it groan. She stood by the window, her reflection blurred against the glass. One hand still clutching the locket like it might stop her from saying what she wanted to say. "I didn't ask you to stay," she murmured. "I know. Then why are you still here?" I moved closer, the floor creaking under my weight. "Because you didn't really ask me to go." Her shoulders tensed, then fell. "You're too young to know what you want." "Maybe. But I know what I don't want." "What's that?" "To pretend this doesn't exist." She turned at that, slow, hesitant, like she'd been bracing for it. The lamplight caught her face, softer now, but the fight was still there in her eyes. "Don't say that," she whispered. "You make it sound simple." "It is simple," I said. "You make it complicated." That earned me a quiet laugh, the kind that hurt more than anger. "You have no idea what you're asking." I stepped in. She didn't move back. The distance between us thinned until I could feel the warmth of her body, the faint tremor in her breath. Her eyes lifted to mine. For a moment, neither of us said a word. Everything we hadn't said all these days hung there, the want, the fear, the impossibility. I reached up and brushed her hair from her face, my fingers barely grazing her temple. She closed her eyes, just for a second, not in surrender, but in something like grief. When she spoke, her voice cracked. "If we cross this line, There's no going back. Then maybe we shouldn't go back. Her lips parted. A shaky inhale, a warning she didn't finish. I felt her hand find my wrist, not to stop me, just to feel it there. Her thumb pressed against my pulse, and I knew she could feel how fast it was. Say something, I whispered. She opened her eyes. I found something, she said again, soft, trembling. But it wasn't supposed to be you. And still, she didn't step away. Her hand slid up to my shoulder, fingers trembling against my shirt. You make me feel like I'm still someone worth wanting, she said. That's dangerous. Then let it be. For one suspended heartbeat, we both leaned in, her breath hit my cheek, the faint smell of tea and rain between us. I could see the tear that had slipped down her face, catching light before it fell. She stopped just short, lips hovering close enough for the air to tremble. Her voice dropped to a whisper. If I let this happen, I'll have to forgive myself for it every day. I swallowed hard. Then I'll remind you why you did. The room felt smaller, the storm quieter. She closed her eyes, not in fear, but in decision. And when she finally leaned in, there wasn't urgency or apology. Just a quiet surrender. Two people finding something they both knew they weren't supposed to keep. When we finally broke apart, her forehead rested against mine. No words, just breathing. Then she said, barely audible, now you understand. And I did. Not what she meant by love, what she meant by loss. Morning came quietly, the kind of gray morning that smells like wet earth and second chances. The storm had moved on. Only the dripping from the eaves broke the silence. She was already awake, sitting on the couch with her knees pulled close, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked smaller somehow, not fragile, just unguarded. The locket rested on the coffee table beside an untouched cup of tea. When she noticed me in the doorway, she smiled. A tired, real smile. I didn't hear you get up, she said. I didn't sleep much. Neither did I. I sat down beside her. For a moment, we just listened to the rain sliding down the gutters, the faint tick of the clock, the rhythm of breathing that somehow found its way into sync. I keep thinking about what you said, she whispered, about not going back. And, her eyes flicked toward me.
I'm scared.
Not of you, of what happens after this. People don't understand when things don't fit neatly into their boxes. I'm not asking anyone to understand, I said. Just you. Her hand was resting on her knee. I reached over, slow, fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away. Our hands fit awkwardly at first, then perfectly, the kind of fit that doesn't ask for proof. She exhaled softly. You'll have a whole life ahead of you. Friends your age, new places, someone. Stop, I said gently. You don't get to decide who feels right for me. She looked at me for a long time, eyes searching, guarded. Then something in them eased. She leaned her head against my shoulder, her voice smaller now. You make it sound easy. It isn't, I said. It's just worth it. For a while, neither of us spoke. The world outside seemed to slow down enough to let the quiet mean something. I felt her fingers trace absent circles against my palm. Small, nervous, tender. I used to think being seen meant being judged, she said finally. But you look at me like I'm still here. I turned to her, brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. You are. Her lips trembled at that. Not from sadness this time, but relief. She shifted closer, until her forehead touched mine again. The same quiet closeness as the night before. A pause, a breath. Then her hand rose and rested against my cheek. No ruse. No fear. Just two people sitting in the afterglow of something they didn't plan but couldn't deny. When she spoke again, her voice was low. Maybe that's what I found. What? Myself, she said. Then, after a heartbeat, and you. Outside, sunlight started breaking through the clouds. Faint, golden, threading through the glass and across her face. She smiled without looking away. Guess the storm's over. Not completely, I said, squeezing her hand. But we made it through. And this time she didn't argue. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?